You know, it don't take much to find the hypocrisy out of the Maga party. All you have to do is research it. During the California wildfires that happened recently and the ones that happened 5-6 years ago, you will find that the GOP and MAGA were all over blaming Californians, politicians, and everybody involved with the Democrat Party. Here is Trump in his first administration talking about the wildfires in California.
California's a mess. We're giving billions and billions of dollars for forest fires in California. There's no reason for those fires to be like they are.
Here is Donald Trump before he took his second oath of office talking about wildfires in California.
What's happening in California is a true tragedy. I know those areas very well. I have many friends living in those houses. That is a true tragedy. No, this is a true tragedy, and it's a mistake of the governor, and you could say the administration.
Here is Caroline Leavitt talking about the wildfires in the administration in California and Los Angeles.
I will never forget being at that roundtable with the president last week and hearing the frustration in the voices of Pacific Palisades residents who feel as though their government has just gone insane.
And of course, you got to sprinkle in a little Fox for them to show that LA and administration in California is to blame for the wildfires.
Is Los Angeles is being governed and the state of California is being governed by people who have lost sight of the basics of governing.
Now here comes the hypocrisy. When it comes to the Texas flood, Trump wouldn't blame himself, Texas, or the local politicians. Trump blamed Biden.
That was really the Biden setup. That was not our setup, but I wouldn't blame Biden for it either.
Now listen to Ted Cruz try to educate the press on whether or not they should try to blame anybody.
One of the things that's predictable is that you see some people engaging in, I think, partisan games and trying to blame their political opponents for a natural disaster. And you see that with a hurricane, with a tornado, with a wildfire, with this flooding, where people immediately say, well, the hurricane is Donald Trump's fault. You know, look, I think most normal Americans know that's ridiculous. And I think this is not a time for partisan finger pointing and attacks.
And also, when it came to the Texas flood, listen to Governor Hot Wheels talk about football when it comes to who's to blame for this Texas flood.
Who's to blame? Know this. That's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas. And that is Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. Every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions.
And of course, Caroline Leavitt had to come out and let everybody know that now is not the time for any kind of blame games, to especially blame Trump for anything dealing with the Texas flood.
Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning.
When it comes to Republicans and Democrats and just politicians in general, there's always a national tragedy or a national disaster when it comes to a Democrat or Republican state. But every time you see Republicans and MAGA go out, anytime something goes wrong, they blame the other side. Anytime something goes right, they always take credit, to include economic policies from a Democratic administration. They never want to take blame. They never want to say, you know what, my bad. You know what, we'll fix it. You know what, we'll investigate. They always say, well, that was Biden's setup, but you can't blame him either because your ass is in the White House. On January 20th, you assume all the problems. They're yours now. Of course, the media and historians and whatever like to give presidents grace periods, but after a while, it's yours. But the MAGA administration always wants to divert blame. Even in the last post I just showed you with Caroline Leavitt, she said, you can't blame Trump, but Chuck Schumer and blah, blah, blah. Like, are you serious? We know that Trump fired hundreds of people from FEMA on his first day in the White House. We know that there were people in Texas that did not take the emergency funds from Joe Biden when he was in the White House. We know that Texas always bragged about being independent and they did not need federal funding. So you have no choice but to blame the MAGA administration in Texas, the MAGA administration in Kerrville, and the MAGA administration in the White House. That's common sense. What do you think?